Alright, well, I think it's time for another video here. I think last time and stuff we got started on if statements. So we've moved into else, adding else to the if statements. This would give us an opportunity to uh, run code based on a condition. If it's true, it runs one line of code. Uh, if it's not true, it runs another line of code. So let me adjust this here and stuff, and we'll take a look at what we got here and keep moving forward with what my journey is, I guess. If you're just joining us for the first time on this, this is a journey of me learning C++. This content is mostly stuff that I've already gone through, starting off with first freecodecamp.org. Because I wanted to learn how to write some code so I could make some programs or games or whatever myself, so that way I understood how they worked. So I got started with that right there, and then I found this right here and started getting into this right here, which is the screen on the right side with W3 Schools. The screen on the right side, it is free. To get into this stuff, you can pretty much all the material I see, you can see as well for free. It is quite a nice website and stuff. They do have upgrades and stuff to help support the website or whatnot. I'm sure if you help support it, they probably will maintain and update the content in it, which would be really nice. When I got into this website and stuff, I actually started with HTML over here on the far uh, left. Actually, here, let me go ahead and maximize this. Over here on the far left, and then I went to CSS, which is styling for HTML. HTML is basically just a way to make websites. But at the top here where this black strip is a list of a bunch of different code languages. Each code language is programmed to do something different depending on how you build it. And the more you learn about them and stuff, the more you understand programs. Anything from Windows to maybe even how a computer works, how a program works, games, applications you have on your phone, etc., etc. Just pretty much everything you do on a computer, on a phone, on a tablet, even things that don't even pertain to a phone, tablet, computer, has some form of this code in it, whether it's C++ or something else. It could be the computer in your car, the computer in your TV, who knows what. Most of anything that has a chip has some form of coding in it and stuff for basic functions. Or it could just be just to send a signal from one place to another, which is still kind of the same thing as a code, on, off. That's pretty much how a computer works. Anyways, so yes, I'm in this website right here and stuff. It doesn't cost anything to get to this website. It is w3schools.com. For me to learn C++, which is currently the journey I'm taking, I've already gone through all this material. I've got other sources up here, including the C++ reference guide right here. Everything pretty much on this page is clickable. This website here offers everything to know about C++. If you're not interested in C++ and you want to do Python, there's Python right there. I don't know if it offers all the material on Python. I'm sure there's other sources and stuff you can use to learn about Python. Again, HTML right there. There you got Bootstrap, you got C Sharp, you got React, you got Java, JavaScript, and many, many more. I can tell you right now, most of these languages and stuff, especially if you've never studied any kind of code language and stuff, it's not going to be something you're going to learn over the weekend. Even if you spend the entire weekend trying to learn it, you're probably not going to learn all about it in just the weekend. But Again, this is about my journey and how I am going about learning it and stuff. I haven't learned all of it yet. In fact, I've probably only learned maybe 25% of it. I don't know how vast C++ is or the stuff that I'm trying to learn is, but I am getting an understanding of it. I'm much farther than what it was. I started about 2, 3, 4 months ago, reading all this material, exercising this material, exercising. What I mean by that is pretty much writing the code into a text editor. If you don't know what a text editor is, I would strongly, and you want to try this stuff, I would strongly suggest uh, finding a text editor. Most computers, if it has Windows on it, has a editor built into it. Whether it's Notepad, Notepad being something like, there it is. This right here. This is Notepad. On my screen, it's black, but you can easily change the theme of it um, to white, whatever, and stuff through the settings and everything. I think this is something kind of new. I like the dark theme on it, and the reason that is because it's easier on the eyes. Staring at a white screen all day long can give you headaches, can be hard on the eyes. Um, Not to mention the fact that I think the white text is easier to read on a black screen than what it is vice versa when you're looking at a white screen trying to stare at black text. The white kind of pops up, but that's just me. You do it however you want, but yes. It's right here is Notepad. It comes pre-built in on Windows. If you're not using Windows, if you're going to use Mac or Linux and stuff, it probably has something else, but most software operating systems and stuff when you buy or build a computer and stuff has something built into it for text editing. It is a very simple program. It is very similar to what I have over here on the left side of the screen, which is VS Code. But yes, there are plenty more. VS Code is not something I paid for, but you can support that as well and stuff by spending money on it for upgrades. It'll help support the software itself as well. There are many others. This is VS Code. VS actually stands for Virtual Studios Code. There is another program out there like it. This one has the blue logo with kind of a triangle with a cross and right there, whatever. I don't know what that symbol really is supposed to be, but Visual Studios is another one. So it would be Visual Studios or Visual Studios Code. Those are two different types of editing programs. The Visual Studios has a purple logo, where this one is a blue. You can kind of see it down here at the bottom of my screen as well. I know there's code blocks and many others and stuff. Just type into Google a text editor, or if you want to use AI and type into AI, what kind of text editors are there, or maybe what is best for the type of code you are trying to learn. If you're trying to learn Python, what's the best for that? You might be very detailed about that too. Mention the kind of software you're using because some of them are specific to some software. So if you're using Windows, be sure to mention the type of Windows you have, whether it's 10 or 11 or whatever it might be, as well as the code you are trying to learn. I also have other sources up here for helping me learn. This one right here is a website called learncpp.com. It has 28 chapters plus of learning C++. It is a much deeper understanding of C++ over W3 Schools. W3 Schools, I would say, is just going to cover everything, let you see everything up front. It's not going to get real thorough, real deep into it. It's not going to tell you how you can do a bunch of different things, but it's going to show you things. Um, it's kind of like the whole idea, if you don't have pictures of it, it didn't really happen, sort of thing. And yeah, that can be true, but you can't really understand the entire concept just by seeing it. But with W3 Schools, at least you are seeing it. You want a deeper understanding of it, you go to another website that has more information. This one, like I said, is learncpp.com. Um, The thing about it is going from one site like W3 Schools, that's going to be beginner friendly level. Going into learncpp.com is going to be kind of a next step in learning the basics, beginner level. You may not understand it. It's going to have a different way of structuring the learning for C++. So it is going to be a little bit more helpful on different kinds of or how to get started with C++ because it does have the tutorials for C++, programming and programming languages, introduction to C++, the development of it, um, stuff that you're going to need for it, like compilers, linkers, and libraries. You may not understand that now and stuff, but yes, it has the information on that. Installing an integrated development environment, which is an IDE, which is a text editor, compiling your first program, a few common C++ problems you might run into that you be able to use this to get through, so it actually does start working on your system, because C++ is something you have to download. It is not automatically loaded to your computer. I don't know if you can do any of this stuff on your phone or even on a tablet, but a laptop and a PC you should be able to, depending on your hardware. Um, Again, look into it. If you want to know if you can do it wherever, look into it, research it. Ask AI. Maybe AI can help with that. So, this right here and stuff is not really beginner friendly. This will have all the information in it. So if you find something else new that you want to know more about, for example, um, keywords. There's an option for keywords and a bunch of keywords here. Everything here is clickable. I can click on it and stuff and maybe even get a definition like namespace. Click on it. Namespace declaration, namespace alias definition, using directives, sort of thing. So it's kind of like the dictionary or the whatever you want to call for C++, but again, it's not very beginner friendly. It's more of, do you want to know a lot more of the details, and do you understand what you're looking at, sort of thing. So something to kind of jump into, jump back out of, read the beginner stuff. Okay, I understand this. Let's see if we can find it in here, sort of thing. Something you're just going to play around with. Another thing I found was this right here and stuff, and that's because I wanted to know some details on some stuff that W3 Schools was having me use about strings. So I'm going to leave it there for now. That's kind of just a recap of where we've gone so far. We left off on our last video with else if, and that's where we're going to pick up right now. So the else if statement. Using the else if statement is using the else if statement to specify a new condition to test if the first condition is false. So let's see here, let's keep reading here. You can use else if to check multiple conditions one after another, and then they got a syntax thing here. I don't have this written down here. This was from our last video. So let's go ahead and add to this, because we don't really actually need to delete it, but we can add to it so I can kind of magnify this example so you can actually see it, or if you're doing it yourself, that's fine. Now it looks like we need to add, we're going to enter, let's see, I'm looking on 2 spaces available there. Comment, space, we need that there. And this is, like I said, this is just from the syntax example here of how your else if statement would be added to your if statement or else statement. So we're going to have else if secondary condition, condition 2, and then, oops, the curly brackets. Let's see, delete. I'm trying to make sure this kind of all flows together with itself. Enter, comment, and then in this part right here, you would have another block of code. So let's go ahead and get that written in there. Block, actually, let's go ahead and line that up with the rest of it. Block of code to be executed if condition 1 is false and condition 2 is true. Okay. And then, so actually we can go ahead and delete this. That way it looks better. Oops. There we go. So that's what the example looks like right there. I'm going to maximize this so you can see a little bit better. So the if-else statement, if you're checking one condition and say it's false, so it skips this line of code to run, as we talked about in the last video. And we have another condition, so we want either one condition to run if one thing is true, or if there's another condition. So let's say voting is a normally a two condition thing. Either you're old enough or you're not old enough. But what if there's two conditions? Let's say, I'm trying to think here, something that requires two conditions in the world. Old enough to drive and have a car. So that might be the two conditions. You can drive if you're old enough to drive and if you have a car, sort of situation. Okay, so condition 1, are you old enough to drive? It may be true, it may be false. Even if it's false, it's going to run into the next condition because you may not be old enough to drive, but you may have a car. Okay, so then we have the second condition here. Do you have a car? Sort of condition. Well, we skipped the first one because you're not old enough to drive. We went to the second condition because you do have a car. So maybe you're 16, 17 years old, and you are old enough to drive, but you don't have your driver's license yet, but you do have a car, sort of situation. Well, in the second condition, we're going to end up running this second line of code right here, what's just highlighted, because you do have a car, but we skipped this first one because you don't have a driver's license yet, sort of situation. Here's the next question and stuff when we get down to this, and we're going to go back into the lesson there because the lesson is probably going to explain this a lot better than what I am. I'm just saying that one condition is true is going to run the next block of code. It may not get to this one right here, but this is kind of how the scenario works. It checks both conditions, true or false, true or false. And then it has another condition right there to check if the first condition or second condition was false, sort of thing. So let's downsize this and come back to this and keep reading on. So the conditions are checked from top to bottom. As soon as one condition is true, the block of code is executed and the rest is skipped. Okay, so according to this right here, if the first condition is true, it's going to run that block of code and it's going to skip the rest of them. Okay. There is another way of doing two conditions and stuff to where both conditions have to be true, but we ain't getting to that right now. We're kind of just following along with what we have. So this is a refresher for me and stuff. So yeah, if this condition is true, it's going to run this block of code. If this is false, it's going to go to the next one, check the next one. If it's true, it's going to run that block. If it's false, it's going to go to the next one. So only one of these conditions are going to be run. One of these blocks of code out of the three. So now we have an example. In the example below, we decide which message to print based on value of time. Okay. And it doesn't look like it matches up with our original, so we're going to just go ahead and rewrite this code. Not a big deal. So let's get rid of all this right here and rewrite our code. So integer time is 16 if, here's our first condition, time is less than 12. And so I use I don't know if you're aware of it and stuff, on most keyboards it has an end button. When it has that end button, it actually automatically jumps to the end of whatever you're typing in on that line. And then that way I can enter and stuff. So if you have more right there, it'll just, if I simply go up one, instead of clicking the right key to go over, I just go to the end and automatically jumps to the end, and then I can hit enter to add another line, sort of thing. You're probably aware of that already, but if you're not, there it is. I'm going to go ahead and tab forward to show that this right here is a new block of code, whether it's true or not. Actually, no, I'm not, because I need to add something here. There's the curly brackets right there. So now it jumps forward to standard output or something for it to run if this statement is true, and that is good morning, period. In that statement, come down. I'm not going to hit enter. I'm just going to go down to this curly bracket right here. And this is where I'm going to add else if, and then another set of curly brackets right there, and enter. And this is where our next condition is going to come in place. So I did not add our next condition. Sorry about that. So our second condition, if our first condition is true, it's going to go and run that block of code and it's going to ignore the rest. If our first condition is false, though, it's going to skip that one. And this is where the second condition is going to come in play. Time is less than 18, then it'll end up running this block of code. Standard out, good day, period. And then we're going to close off that one, except for I misspelled C out with one too many U's, and down. Okay, so the first condition's false. Let's check the second condition if it's true. I'm not saying whether they're true or false right now and stuff. I'm just kind of giving an example. So we skip the first statement because the first one was false. Go to the next one and say it's true. So this is the line of code it's going to run. If this one is false as well, this is where we add in another else. Else, I mean, you could put else if, but if you put if, you have to add a condition to it. If you don't put if, then this is just a last resort sort of thing. So there's no condition to check if it's just else. We're going to run this block of code. Again, this is not me teaching C++ because I am not, I do not know enough about C++ yet to be teaching it. But this is the journey I took, and this is the understandings I got, and that's why if I'm wrong about something, please leave it in the comments. That way it can be corrected. If you have any questions or whatnot, leave them in the comments. The comments are there for all that. So if condition for 1 is true, it will run this block of code and ignore the rest. If it's false, it'll skip this block of code and go to the next one. As long as we have if here, it'll check a secondary condition. If we don't have if here, it's going to run this no matter what. And this right here will be pointless because it won't run this one. There's as far as I know, I don't think it'll run a secondary else condition because of the fact the first one is there. But we can play with it and check it here in a little bit. But since we do have if there, we have another condition right there. Like again, if you have an if, you have to have a condition. It'll check and see if it's true or false. If it's true, it'll run the block. If it's false, it jumps down to the next line or skips this line. I shouldn't say jump. I should say skip. So it skips this line right here and jumps to the next line after that. There we go. And it'll run this. Since there's no condition here, this is the alternative. So it's going to run this no matter what. The question I had though is if we have two else's, will it run both? Well, for now, let's go ahead and save it the way it is. Like I said, we can play with it and find out. Run it. And it looks like it prints up good day, which is this block of code right here. So obviously this one right here is false, but this one is true. So therefore good day is printed to the console because it runs this line of code. Let's move this to another line because we can easily check this just by simply putting in a comment right there. Now we're getting an error because we removed the if right here. So this is the else. And when we're getting an issue right here, expected a statement. So this is telling us and stuff that it was expecting to, since there's an else right here, it was expecting either an if or an if else right here to check for additional. Why? It's basically asking us why we have two else's right here. We'll go ahead and save this the way it is and see what happens here, and we just get an error. Error saying that there's else without a previous if. So why do we have two else's if there's already an else here? So obviously you can't do that. So we're going to go ahead and take this back away, clear up the terminal, save it right there. So obviously you can't have two else's. This is kind of a way of learning, playing with the code and seeing what it'll do. Oh, this might show it, explain it and stuff, but this is our way of kind of learning as well. I'm going to go ahead and move that back up to there so it looks a little bit cleaner. Save it again. And that's the example right there. So again, first one's true, it'll run the first block. If it's false, it'll skip that first block, go to the next one, else if. It'll check this condition since there's another if. If it's true, it'll run that. If it's false, it'll skip down to the last one right here. Otherwise, it skips any of them when one of them is true. So if this one's true, it skips the rest of it. There you go. The way of checking multiple conditions. So in this case, if both conditions are true, it's not going to run both of them. It's just going to skip over it. So, and this right here, after the example, it has example explained. So let's go ahead and read this off. The value of time is 16. The first condition, time, is less than 12, which is this one right here, is false. But the second condition, time, is less than 18, is true. Because of this, uh, the line of code inside else if, which is this one right here, block runs and good day is printed to the console. If the value of time was 22, none of the conditions, this one right here or this one right here, would be true and the program would print good evening for the else right there. All right. Moving on, using Boolean variables. Just like with if statements, you can store conditions in Boolean variables to use them with else if. So we kind of did this a little bit and stuff where we took this basically out of the condition right here and stored it in a variable, and then we put the variable in the condition. It has a couple of examples here, but pretty much it's going to do the same thing that these are doing, except for storing the value and then using the value inside the condition. So in this case, it's not checking it. When we do this example here, I'm going to go ahead and write it here. Go ahead and enter again. We don't need two, just one. There we go. Bull is morning, is time less than 12, and another bool is day is time less than 18, and in the statement. Okay, so now that we have this right here sitting up here, we don't need this in here anymore. In fact, we can replace this right here with is morning. It's not going to be evaluated here no more. It's already being evaluated up here, and the response is sitting right here stored. The evaluation's already been done. It's being stored. So this right here, whatever this is, true or false, is already sitting in here. So this is predetermined at this point in time. And since this one is in the same way, sitting right here, and it's already been evaluated at this point. It's stored right here. We can replace this with whatever the storage of is day is. So we can go and replace this with is day. And so now the conditions don't get evaluated here or here anymore. They're already set. They get evaluated up here now. We can go ahead and save, and we'll get the same response as what we did before, to where it's going to print good day. Run the code, good day. That's pretty much all that example is saying. And this entire thing and stuff is basically saying you store whatever the expression is in a variable, and then put the variable in place instead. So more on that later and stuff, because like I said, my other sources kind of go into deeper detail on that. Here's a kind of a tip. Boolean variables names like is morning and is day make it easier to understand what each condition means. And that kind of means that is it morning or is it day, based on time and current time. So if for you the morning ends at say 11 a.m. or 11 a.m. or 1100 hours, then you might replace the 12 with 11, and this is what the current time is. Um, if your evening doesn't start until 5 or 6 or whatever, or I think that's 1800 hours, then you might replace this with that time, and then input whatever time it currently is here as well. Now, how could you use this in a program and stuff, because this is preset? Well, again, we can ask the question, what time is it currently? And a user might put in a time. Granted, the user may have two different options as to time to put in, whether it's a 24-hour clock or if it's a 12-hour clock. If we go with a 24-hour clock, give me a second. If we go with a 12-hour clock, then you might have to add in the fact that AM and PM can be set, which we haven't discussed how to do that yet. If you go with a 24-hour clock, though, it would probably be a lot easier, especially since you can set this to 1800 and no two times are the same. There's not an AM or PM. Every time of the day is all a different number. So that way you might be able to understand why it might be easier to use a 24-hour clock when it comes to programming, because you don't have to worry about the AM or PM when it comes to code, over using the AM PM and try to get that AM and PM to where the program's going to understand it. If I write in there 1600 like that, it doesn't really recognize this right here so much, but I can switch this to a decimal point to where then it kind of does, but then I'm going to have to change this. Sorry, I got too much of it highlighted there, to a double. That way it'll accept the decimal points. And then I can, at that point in time, change this to a decimal, that to a decimal, and then compare two decimal points to each other to determine the time frame. We're used to seeing the semicolon and stuff, but I'm sure you can use a decimal and stuff in place of it. And especially, I think a regular clock goes up to, or a 24-hour clock still goes up to 59. But even at that, even if somebody puts in 1675 and stuff, if you're using a flat time, 11 a.m. is the end of your morning, 1175 is still going to be over the 11 a.m. So that means it's going to be 75 whatever over. So that might be why you would use military time with code over a 12-hour clock with code. Even though my clocks use 12 hours, so when it gets to 12 p.m. Or 11:59 a.m. and then jumps to 12, it automatically switches. There's a way to write that program in there as well, but we haven't discovered that yet. In fact, we haven't really even discovered how to use time in code. We're just doing some simple stuff here. So, but yes, you can have somebody input it. You already know how to do inputs since it's already been one of our things that we've done. And you just basically set the time for 11 a.m. or 5 p.m. or 1700 hours or whatnot, sort of thing. So let's keep moving on, discover more stuff. C++ shorthand if else. Okay. So we have, this is not the same as what we've done already. We've done if, where we check in condition. We've done else as a result if the condition is false. We've done else if, where we check one condition. If that first condition is false, we check the second condition. If the second condition is true or false, we check a third, or we don't even check a third condition, but we go to an alternative. In this statement and stuff, we are doing it backwards to where it's not else if, but it's if else. Shorthand else, if else, ternary operator. There is also a shorthand if else known as a ternary operator because it uses 3 operands. Now we haven't discussed what operands are. We've discussed operators, but not operands. So it's introducing a word that we might not be familiar with. Since I got the example over here, this is the operator, which is a comparison operator. Okay, the operands would be the 12 and the time. Basically, what stands on the right and the left side of the operator. So if it's word, number, whatever. So that is the operands, what sits on the left and the right side of the operator. The I can't hardly pronounce it. Ternary, yeah, I may not be pronouncing that right. Operator returns a value based on a condition. If the condition is true, it returns the first value. Otherwise, it returns a second value. And this right here, if this is true, it returns the first value. If it's false, it returns the second value. This is actually not what this is referring to. It's going to rewrite our if-else statement. All this. It's going to rewrite all this. It can be used to replace multiple lines of code, which is what this is, with a single line, and is often used to replace simple if-else statements. Okay, so let's not get this right here, if-else ternary operator, confused with this right here. It is doing kind of the same thing, but it's not going to look anywhere near the same. But if you need to see it one way or the other, you can write it out either way to see it. The syntax for this. So I'm going to go ahead and clear up all this down here to show you what the syntax for this is going to look like. Variable, which you've already discussed that, so that word should not come as new to you if you've seen my other videos. I need to put in the comment here at the beginning so it's not giving us an error for all this. Condition, question mark, expression. I didn't spell it right. Switch the P and the R, please. Condition, true, colon, expression, false. Okay. So there is our syntax for what this is pretty much doing. So ternary, like I said, I can't pronounce it very well, operator. I believe it is referring directly to, like I said, it doesn't have a whole lot of detail. It's just giving us a syntax for this specific thing. The next source we go to and stuff will have a better explanation of this and what it actually is. In fact, we have this word right here, but this word does not exist in our operators right here. There is no ternary operator listed in this. In fact, I'm looking through them right now, and I'm not even seeing them. No. It's got conditional. I see I see the operation underneath conditional, which is listed as other. So maybe we'll click on that right there. Because this is what it's referring to, conditional operator, not ternary. So if this is our dictionary for C++, this one states it as it's the same thing, A right there. Actually, A would be all this, maybe right here, unless I'm seeing this wrong. I could be seeing that wrong, especially since I don't see a great example of it. Anyways, let's go ahead and continue going with this. I'm looking a little bit more. Nope. Okay. Let's continue going with this right here and just keep reading through it, and we'll get kind of we got the example that they have written down right now. I put that in the wrong spot. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. There we go. Thank you. I think that's something new that they added to VS Code. So instead of writing, let's go ahead and put this example in here because this is the same. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of almost all of this. I'm gonna get rid of that and this, and that may have been the same as what we had in here, but I'm gonna change this to 20. Go to the end of that, enter if, instead of writing this, because this is the example they have, but in fact, I'll go ahead and add the comment right here. Instead of writing this example, which is time is less than 18 and space, put that there. The output, oops, good day, and next line down, space, else, that right there, second standard output, good evening, and control save. Okay, so why is that sit now? Because I misspelled it. That's my biggest issue, is misspelling things. I actually hit the wrong keys sometimes. So instead of writing the code like this, here, I'm going to space this out of it. We are specifically referring to this section right here. Instead of writing the code like this, you could simply write it another way. Write it in this form right here. How would you do that? Well, the example right here shows writing it like this. Standard string result is condition time 18 and space, yeah, question mark, good day period, end of the line, semicolon, or colon, sorry, good evening period, end. Now we got another thing right here. We want to know what the result is. Standard out result. Yeah, okay, I see what they're doing now. Okay, we got the example sitting there. So instead of writing it the way we had it before, and everybody's seen the way we had it before, so we would write it like this. Okay, first thing is, since you have strings in here, you need this to be set as a string because your result is going to be one of these two strings. Okay, So we're going to restore the result of this right here, condition result, into result, which is going to be printed out right here. So we're going to start off with if, just like before, if time is less than 18, print the next line of code, which is going to be this, which this will then be restored into result, and then we will print out result right here. But if it's false, skip the first line and go to the second line. A good way to see this, because you can do it this way too. Okay, so you know the if. I believe you can write it this way too. Backspace, enter. Backspace, enter. There you go. I believe you can write it that way too. It should still work. So, if this is true, we go to the next line, just like we did before. If it's false, we skip the next line and go to this one right here. Let's see if it comes out the way it's supposed to. We don't get any errors. No, we don't get any errors. So yes, you can write it just like that too. If you're used to the if-else stuff, you can write it like this. Or you can keep it all in one line. But this is a good way to explain it. So we just had the else-if sort of thing, but we're using these operators in place of a lot of that. The condition's right here, and we're storing whatever the condition is into this right here and then printing it out right here. Before, we were just simply printing this out if this was true, printing this out if this was false. We would write in the whole Boolean store, this right here. We are simplifying a lot of that in this. So if this is true, next line. Take this right here, don't print it, but take this right here, store it in there, we'll print it down here. If this is false, we'll skip the next line and come to this one right here, store it right there, and bring it down here. Like I said, it works kind of the same way. You can't, I'm not sure if you can add a second condition to this, though. We'd have to keep going through and looking at it, but that's the gist of it right there. Except for they have it on one line, which is a lot nicer when it's on one line because it's not hogging up 3 lines. So, moving on, you can also use the ternary operator directly inside the output statement. Okay, so if you don't want to restore the result right here, you simply get rid of this. We're going to get rid of this. We don't need that either. We're going to go ahead and move this back to there, put the space in there, and move this back. Put the space in there. Now we got the same expression. Now we're going to highlight this. And as you've seen before, I've been able to move this stuff around. So we're going to simply move it to right there. Add a space right there. And you got the same thing. It's going to output the same thing. It's not going to be stored. It's just going to be outputted. So we're going to save it, run it, and we'll get the same exact results. 0. Not the same exact results. Sorry. Why did it print up 0? So when you do this way, you need to put the entire thing in parentheses. So it outputs the entire line of code, not just whether this is true or false. Otherwise, it's just going to print this is true or false. And it's probably going to, it looks like it's going to ignore the rest of this. The entire thing needs to be in parentheses so it reads the entire thing as one unit. So we want the result of this entire unit, but you still need to have this in parentheses so it reads this as one, and then the rest of it as an entire unit. So save, print. Now we get the exact same result. Obviously, I didn't think about that the first time and stuff, or else I would have put that in there because I wasn't paying attention to the details of the example there. So the parentheses around this right here gets the entire result. But first we need this one right here. So this is kind of the same thing as a math problem. You want this done first before you want any of the rest of it done. Once this is done, then this will result in doing the rest of this left to right. True, print the next thing. False, skip the next thing, print this. Still in kind of that line shape, if, else, etc. thing. Okay, so we got a tip down here. Using ternary, operator for short or simple conditions. For longer or more complex logic, the regular if-else statement is easier to read. Yes, I do agree. Until you get used to reading this, I would definitely stick with the if-else, but I would also get used to doing this and stuff too, because this comes in very handy and stuff for shorter things, especially if you just have values you're checking instead of whatever. But we're going to do a lot more of these eventually. You know about it though, that's the key. Last part of the shorthand if-else, nested ternary. You can nest ternary operators to handle more than more than two outcomes, but it can make your code harder to read. Let me read that again. You can nest ternary operators to handle more than two outcomes, but it can be hard to read. Okay, so we got another example right here. So let's clear this right here. We already know about this. We're going to go ahead and clear all this. And we're going to clear this right here. It looks like our code is going to be about the same. We're going to go ahead and change that for the example. We're going to shrink that down a little bit. We still got good morning, good afternoon, good evening, but we got a little bit different. So we're going to go and keep the output there, get rid of that, and let's rewrite our code here. So standard string message is going to be time is less than 12 in space question mark space and then a string. Good morning. Okay, then we're going to enter because we're going to go ahead and try to keep this all on one screen, plus the example allows us to do that too. So we go and put the colon in there because if it's false, it's going to skip that line. It's going to go into this line right here. Space. Well, here's where our second condition plays in. So yes, we can have multiple conditions in this. Time is less than 18 and question mark string good afternoon. I'm being bothered by something here, but I'm going to try to ignore it as much as possible. So if the first one's false, it's going to skip this one, go to the next one. But we have another condition. So if this one's true, we can go ahead and do this one. But if it's not true, then we need to have a result to go back to a fallback type of thing. Good evening. Period. And since this all right here, no matter what we end up printing up, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, is going to be saved in message, our output is going to end up being message in the variable. And we're going to save that. That's the example right there. So yes, even doing this right here, you can have multiple conditions. Can you have more than two? I don't know. But we know about it. That's the important thing. We'll go and run it, and we get good evening. So obviously this one's false. This one's false as well because 22 is greater than 12 and 18. So neither one of these are going to be print. Now it's going to store this value right here in message right here. So good evening is what we get printed up. Okay. Note, although nested ternary operators work, it's usually better to use a normal if, else, if, and else statement for clarity. Yes. And that's because this right here is going to end up getting so long. I would definitely get used to both of them so you know about them and you don't forget them because obviously I've forgotten a little bit about them. But if you can write them both ways to get them exercised, so if you find yourself writing an if statement, you might try to write this right here with it and comment it out just so you can remind yourself how to write both ways. But moving on to the next thing. Nested if. Now we've already gotten into an hour of this. That's probably because of a little bit of recap I did there at the beginning of this video. Um, so I think we're going to cut it off right here, and we'll pick up the next video right here at nested if, which is dealing with ifs as well. Just put another if else whatnot stuff. Yeah, we'll get into that next video. Like I said, if there's something I said that's wrong, I'm not a teacher here. I'm just kind of bringing you along for the journey that I took to learn C++, which is not complete yet, but up to the point to where I start getting confused and trying to figure things out. So I'm also learning as long as while I'm going here, and I'm sharing a journey with you. So maybe you can learn something too if you're interested. If you're not, that's fine by me. Any questions, comments, corrections, anything like that can be posted in the comments. Feel free to. Um, Otherwise, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.